Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really profound story, one that's all about failure, accountability, and maybe most importantly, the incredible power of real, sincere repentance. It's a question we've all asked ourselves, right? What happens when good people, really good people, make a serious mistake? When someone you look up to just completely drops the ball? How is a community supposed to handle that? Well, for three of the Prophet Muhammad's own companions, it meant being completely, and I mean completely, shunned by their entire community. Just imagine that for a second. We're not talking about a slap on the wrist. We're talking total social isolation. Nobody speaks to you. Nobody even looks at you. Your friends, your neighbors, everyone just silence. And this went on for 50 days. 50! That's not a week, it's not a month. It's an incredibly long time to be utterly alone in a crowd. This was a test, a trial designed to push them to their absolute limits and see if their remorse was genuine. And here's the thing, this isn't just some old story. This is a powerful, real-life case study drawn right from the heart of the Qur'an. It's there for a reason, to teach us some timeless lessons about our own weaknesses and, thankfully, about God's incredible mercy. Okay, so to really get why their mistake was such a big deal, we have to understand the stakes. What was on the line? The Quran frames this whole idea of faith as something huge, something profound. You could almost call it a deal for paradise. Just listen to the language here. It's so striking, isn't it? It talks about a purchase. God has purchased from the believers their lives and their property. In exchange, paradise. Wow. This isn't just about believing something in your head. It's a deal. It's an all-in commitment where you put everything on the table for that ultimate eternal reward. It's active, not passive. All right, so if faith is this all-in deal, then what does that actually look like? What are the terms and conditions, so to speak? Well, the Quran gives us a kind of checklist, a character sketch of what a believer is. And if you look at this list, you'll see it's not just a bunch of abstract ideas. It's a list of actions, of character traits you can actually see. It starts with the personal stuff, right? Being repentant, worshiping, praising God, but then it moves outward into the community, enjoining what's right, forbidding what's wrong. The message is crystal clear. Belief isn't just a label you wear. It's something you do. It's who you are. Now, this deal, this commitment, it's not a free-for-all. Yes, mercy is at the very heart of it all. But there are also some firm boundaries. And understanding these boundaries is absolutely crucial for the story we're about to get into. So here's the principle. Believers shouldn't keep seeking forgiveness for people who have made it undeniably clear that they are enemies of the faith. Now, this might sound harsh, but it's really about protecting the moral core of the community. There comes a point where you have to have clarity. It's a tough line for sure, but it's drawn for a reason. And to make this idea really land, the Quran gives us the perfect example, the Prophet Abraham. You see, he had so much compassion for his father. He pleaded for him, he really did, because he'd made a promise. But when it became crystal clear that his father was an enemy to God, Abraham had to make a tough choice. He had to disassociate. It's such a powerful lesson, isn't it? It shows us this balance. You have compassion, but you also need clarity. Okay, so with all of that context in mind, the high stakes, the checklist, the firm boundaries, let's get to the heart of our story. Let's talk about these three men and what happened when they fell short of that all-in commitment. First thing to know, these guys weren't nobodies. We're talking about Ka'b ibn Malik, Murara ibn Arabi, and Hilal ibn Umayyah. These were well-respected men, solid believers with a good track record. But then came the call for a really tough expedition to a place called Tabuk. And for whatever reason, they just didn't go. And they didn't have a good excuse. Now, this is the crucial part. When the prophet returned and started asking people why they hadn't joined, a whole bunch of people came up with fake excuses. They lied. But not these three. They chose the hard path. They told the truth. They owned up to it. So their punishment, their test, it wasn't because they were liars. It was because of the seriousness of what they failed to do. It was about accountability. And their ordeal, wow, it was intense. It starts with that truthful confession. And bam, immediately, the prophet orders a complete social boycott. Nobody is to talk to them. Then things get even more intense. It's almost unbelievable. They're even told to separate from their own wives. Can you imagine? Isolated even within their own homes? And this goes on for 50 days.
50 days of pure social exile, forcing them into some deep, and probably very painful soul-searching. And the Qur'an describes what they were feeling inside with such power. It says, the earth, as wide as it is, felt narrow and tight for them. Even their own souls felt constricted. They felt trapped. And in that moment of just complete desperation, they hit rock bottom and had this incredible realization. There is no running from God. The only refuge from God is running to God. That was it. That was the turning point.
So, what can we take away from all this? I mean, this is such an intense story. What does it really teach us about community, about accountability, and about mercy?
Well, there are a few really big ones. First, sincerity is everything. It didn't matter that these guys were veterans of the faith. Their past glory couldn't save them. What mattered was their honesty in that moment. Second, this whole boycott thing, it wasn't about revenge. It was a corrective measure, a really tough one, for sure, but it was designed to inspire real change, not just to punish. And finally, you see this perfect balance between firmness and mercy. The community had to be firm, right? Commitment is serious. But at the end of the day, God's mercy won. It shows us that even when we mess up badly, the door for real, sincere repentance is always, always open.
And that really leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? In our own lives, with our families, in our communities, we're going to face situations where people mess up. And this story from 1400 years ago challenges us today. How do we balance that? How do we hold people accountable, be firm and clear, but at the same time always leave the door open for mercy, for genuine repentance, and for redemption? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me.